Welcome to another installment of Behind the Comic Strip Curtain. This time we look at the development of some early Spider-Man villains from the creative team of Stan Lee and John Romita. The publication of Amazing Spider-Man number 38, cover dated July 1966, marked the end of an era for the series. It was the final issue to feature the work of Steve Ditko, who had departed Marvel in late 1965. While best known for defining the series' visual language, Ditko's role extended far beyond illustration. He was the co-creator of Spider-Man and contributed many key ideas for the character from the very beginning. As the Amazing Spider-Man progressed, Ditko even assumed sole responsibility for plotting the stories. Along the way, Ditko played a major role in the introduction of many iconic villains, ensuring Spider-Man had one of the strongest rogues galleries in comic book history. Ditko's departure placed significant pressure on writer-editor Stan Lee and newly appointed artist John Romita to sustain the series' momentum. One of the most visible ways they would assert their own creative identity was through the introduction of new villains, expanding Spider-Man's lineup of adversaries for a new phase of the title. Before this new phase would commence, Lee chose to resolve a long-running villain subplot that Ditko had left unresolved. In a major two-part storyline beginning with issue number 39, cover dated August 1966, the Green Goblin's true identity was finally revealed. His threat was also neutralized, at least temporarily, through a conveniently timed case of selective amnesia. Romita recognized the significance of this event, though he was unsure of Lee's precise motivations for placing it at the very beginning of their run. "I never could get a straight story from Stan. I don't know if he had me do that particular story because he was worried that sales would fall off without Ditko and he wanted a big event, or because he wanted me to cut the cord with Ditko." In any event, Lee made it clear that he had no intention of relying purely on recycled opponents for the strip. He didn't want to use a lot of Ditko's villains. He felt they had overused them already, so we always tried to come up with new ones. I started sharpening my creative skills that way. The creation of these new villains could begin simply with an evocative name. Stan would come in and sometimes just pin a piece of paper with a name on it on my drawing board when I was out. When Stan did this, I'd do up some sketches and bring them in and ask him what he thought. The first one I think was the Rhino. Stan would just write the words, "Next month, the Rhino." And I would have to come up with a character that looked like a rhino or based on a rhino. Romita later confessed to a lack of confidence in his initial Rhino design, but received support from fellow artist Marie Severin. "I didn't think the Rhino was going to work until Marie Severin did a drawing of the Rhino in action. I did a drawing of the Rhino and I was about to reject it, when Marie Severin said, 'I like that.' I said, 'It looks silly, the face sticking out below the horn.' But when Severin showed him a drawing of the character charging like a bull, Romita changed his mind, telling her she was right." The creative process differed in the case of the Shocker, another villain who premiered in issue number 46, March 1967. In this instance Lee provided both the name and a basic power set. Lee told me he has the powers to shock people with electric bolts from his wrists. I didn't create the name. I didn't create anything else. I didn't create the powers. I just created the costume. While designing the Shocker costume, for some reason I thought, cushion and quilt. I'm thinking, if the guy has shocking power and vibrates buildings so they fell apart by shaking them, then there's got to be some kind of cushion effect, so subliminally, I did it. Romita was again dissatisfied with his design, but this time the feeling would persist. "I didn't think the Shocker worked, I thought it was embarrassing. But some people have said they loved the Shocker. I'm not the one to judge." A short time later, Lee and Romita reworked a Ditko-era villain, the Vulture. According to Ditko's recollections, his original interpretation had been at odds with Lee's views. With Ditko gone, Lee and Romita created and introduced a new iteration in issue number 48, May 1967. We felt like we needed to make the Vulture a younger character. It seemed more realistic to have a younger man be that kind of villain, rather than have him be as old as Steve Ditko envisioned. Ditko's version was very striking though. Lee and Romita's reconceptualization involved seemingly killing off the original Vulture and replacing him with a younger man, Blackie Drago. But this version was apparently unpopular with readers, as the original Vulture would return to reclaim his title in issue number 63. The most memorable villain of the early Lee-Romita era would debut in the landmark 50th issue of Amazing Spider-Man, which introduced the Kingpin. Romita recalled the character's creation being initiated with a note from Lee that simply read, "Next month, I want a character called the Kingpin of Crime. I was thinking of an actor called Robert Middleton. I don't know if he ever appeared bald on the screen, but I was thinking of someone as frightening as that, who used to play some really frightening characters. So I thought of him and used his general features for the Kingpin. I thought of him as an old Wall Street mogul with a stick pin in his cravat. It seemed to make some kind of sense on a subliminal level. I tried to put stuff in to make the reader remember and understand them. The Kingpin cared about how he looked. He dressed up like every morning was Sunday." Romita may also have been influenced by an image he saw in an earlier comic book published by the competition, though the actual source remains a mystery. I later saw in a DC story from the 1950s a splash page where there was some tycoon who was wearing the exact outfit that was on the Kingpin. If it was in my mind, I never remembered seeing that. The character designs were run past Lee, and the Kingpin's attributes were further developed during their plotting sessions. Romita had drawn the character as, in his words, a 400-pound monster, in order to distinguish him from other criminals. But the final version would possess strength well beyond ordinary human limits. I don't know if Stan told me to make him strong. I think what happened when he and I were working on the plot, Stan suggested that Kingpin be working out and that a couple of thugs would come in and he'd clobber them. And then I'd exaggerate that. This interplay worked great. So it was a great combination, the way we worked.